Hello, YouTube. This is Zug. Alright. I don't think I can carry on this video with that voice. So, anyways, this is Zaz here, and today we are gonna do a video on Advocate of God, Zouglas. And let's move right in to the stats. Okay, so Zouglas over here, he has the highest HP tied together with Lance Veil. Uh, do you guys hear something? Okay, never mind. And MP wise, I think he has 76 MP at max. Okay, all these stats are max stats at level 100 and full awakening and everything. So that's MP. And STR, he has 913. So that number itself, it's close to physical DPS STR, but of course not the highest. Um, just one of the units that is close with is Kyle, which is at 909. So in terms of DPS, STR wise, he's comparatively to a lot of units is pretty high, and especially is against tank. Tank is usually around the high 700s. INT wise, he is just average. Uh, so I definitely wouldn't recommend building him as a mage. And for defense, okay, defense is the one that he has the highest defense in the game, taking over Medine previously. Uh, okay, sure I heard a voice. Uh, it's getting a little bit late right now, and I think I better turn on the lights. Give me a moment, guys. What the? Oh, Jesus! Now, who the hell are you? What are you doing here? And why are you in that weird thing, whatever it is? Yo, dude, I have no idea what the hell you're talking about. And how do you get in my office in the first place? Listen, I don't have time to deal with you right now. So before I call the security, get your shiny ass out of the building, man. Come on, go on, shoo. My apologies, guys. There are really some weird people out there nowadays, man. Alright, moving on. He has a 720 MND, magic defense. So for this stat itself, he has the same magical defense as characters like Randy and Romel. And it's pretty similar to Savia and Shin. So as you can see, it's more like um, physical DPS levels, 20 lower than Lance Veil, and is higher than Gorm at 667. So I think in MND wise, he is pretty decent indeed. Okay, and moving on, we are at attribute resistances. So as you can see, he has 10 resistances for the first four elements, and 15 resistances for dark. And his glaring weakness will be towards light damage, and this is also partially you can see it from his trait later, his second trait. So we'll talk about it a little bit later. And about ailment resistances, this is where it gets interesting. Okay, looking at his ailment resistances, he has a resistance against poison and blind. Decent to have, but not really game breaking. The problem comes on his weaknesses. Okay, he's weak to both stun and illness. Okay, these two are pretty deadly for DPS or tank. Okay, so this is something that I want to highlight as is one of his main weaknesses. Okay, being a weak to stun, it means that if he's a tank, he won't be as effective, and if if it's a DPS, right, a stun DPS is equivalent to no DPS. So being weak to stun is really, really making him, putting him at a bad spot in a sense. And to negate this, I feel if you want to negate, we are just talking about him in particular. We are not talking about synergies with the other characters. So if you want to negate stun, you need to put on stun nail and stun resist, which total costs 15 SC. Okay. And if you're talking about weakness, illness, why is illness a problem for him? Because if he's a tank, uh, and he gets illness, he can't be healed. So that would cause problems in his survivability, and you will have to have a healer support unit that cleanses it off, and that takes time off your healers doing heals to your DPS. So it might potentially cause problems. And if you are talking about a illness on a DPS, if you are playing him as a pure DPS in a sense, then that would make him not able to heal off self-sustain even. Proc force, self-sustains, he won't be able to heal also. So this can be potentially causing problems when you're building him. So do take note. And right now we only have illness resist. We don't have illness nail. So I would expect that in the future, if we have illness nail, it's also 10 SC. And is it 10 SC? I think it's 10 SC. So that would cost 15 SCs uh, total also for illness resist and illness nail. Okay, so that's about the ailment resistances. Next, we move on to his faint point. He is at 1200s. So that is the same as most tanks, Lensville, Gorm, 1200 faint point. Speed is 2, so he's pretty slow, and crit rate is 3. All right, and for him himself, he can wear only swords and armor. So only sword and only armor. So if you want to wear anything else, you have to equip the skill. And moving on, we would take a look at his abilities. This is also pretty interesting. His auto attack is neutral. Okay, neutral auto attack. Why am I saying this out? Because all his skills here, all the 4 skills that you see on screen, are all dark elements. So basically, he is a full-on single element, like to the core. Okay, almost to the core. Single element unit. So basically, all his skills are all dark damage, which is good in a sense when you have dark attack race and all this, but bad versus units that are dark resistant. Okay, let's move on to a little bit about his skills. Skill 1. Okay, you guys are probably will read about his skills or have seen his skill animation and stuff, so I won't go through that. What I'll go through is his SCT required to use every skill. Okay, 20 SCT for first skill, which is the top left, 35 SCT for the top right, second skill. Bottom left is 50 SCT. Okay, ultimate is 6100, but not I'm gonna not gonna highlight on that. So why am I talking about the SCT, right? It's because if you have compared him with other units out there, especially DPS units, you will see that his SCT costs almost twice as much as other physical DPS. Okay, I'm talking about Randy, for example. Randy's first skill is 10, second is 20, third skill is 30. So if you compare in that sense, uh, in a way, Randy can have 2 stocks of his skills, each skills, and while Zouglas can only have 1. And another unit that a lot of people are interested to compare him with is Phantom Thief Robin. Okay, which some people use him as a dark uh, physical DPS. And Phantom Robin is 10, 18, and 24. So Phantom Robin is closer to Zouglas SET. As you can see, it's almost uh, 2 skills per one skill for Zouglas. Okay, so this is something that you guys want to take note if you're going to use him as a physical DPS, uh, because he's going to cast twice as slow as other uh, physical DPS units. Okay, so let's go through his traits now. And for his traits, the first trait is pretty nifty. He deals more damage, more dark damage to units that have the lesser HP the unit has, the lesser HP the opponent unit has. So maximum will be at 50% additional damage uh, when the opponent is at 10% HP. So I think it's pretty nice to have this skill. That means he's able to kill off units faster. He's able to burst down bosses. You know, when the bosses get lesser closer to break, right? And then maybe when you get the opponent to break state, you can just spam everything, and then he can just burst the units down. So this is something that is worthy to take note. And for the second trait, it is to say that when he's guarding, he will halve all the damage from all elements except light. So talking about the previous part whereby we talk about the attribute resistances, he is it further increases. It doesn't increase actually. It just makes it glaring that he's still weak to light in even in this trait, and it makes him more tanky towards every other element, which is very very cool. Okay. All right. Moving on, we are gonna talk about his skills. Uh, Basically, I pasted the list of skills that he have. I'm just gonna talk about the important ones, the highlighted ones. So skills that are new to us. Okay, armor high boost, for example, minus 20% damage from boss. So this is pretty interesting. It makes him really tanky against bosses. And this skill is actually buffed in global. For you guys that didn't know, in JP it's only a minus 10%. So I guess it's a good change, finally, apart from the MP nerf that we have. So and okay, next is Shadow Sword. Okay, when he equips a sword, plus 40% dark damage on his regular attacks and skills. Okay, this is pretty insane. Okay, 40% is a really huge multiplier. And I definitely think that if you want to use him, you definitely want to use a sword, because he also has sword boost plus 10% attack and skill. So it's like a 50% additional uh damage to his, I mean, to his damage itself. And okay, right now, after having going through all his stats and everything, right? Let's talk about what roles you think that he will be suitable for. So what I think is that he is naturally tanky. He can definitely play a tank role, but he won't be the conventional tanks that we have, because all of the tanks right now, they are not able to dish out crazy amounts of damage like he can. So um, one way of playing him will be to use him purely for tanking, and additional stuff you can put on the physical DPS to support in terms of DPS. So I think that that is a most generic role that he can play. So as you guys know, most of the content that we have now, we don't really need a tank other than for tower. So for tower, um, at the very beginning, you probably can make him do more DPS, and then later on, when things get harder, when he gets killed easier, then you can start to gate and then change certain skills to make him be tankier. So definitely in this aspect, as a tank, you will want to put him all the tanky stuff on him: HP ups, defense ups, a lure, a decoy, all the generic tank skills are good on him. Especially, I want to highlight guard skills. Okay, guard is probably gonna be pretty good on him, just because he already has a lot of guard things on him, and also the fact that when he guards, he reduces. That's one of his traits, right? Reduces half of all other elemental damages other than light. So I would feel that putting guard on him, especially he has also guard charge, which will help in terms of charging up his skills. So that would be pretty decent. Okay. And the question here, some of the skills that I have uh, that are more questionable is, for example, counter. Okay. Why do I say that? Because in usual situations, when you have guard skills equipped on a unit, you wouldn't want to put counter unless you want to break out of guard. So for Zouglas is a bit unique because he can do DPS. Previous tanks, right, that you put guards on, they can't really do much DPS, at least physical DPS. So their autos and counter damage is not that high. But for Zouglas, it might be debatable. So that is one aspect that maybe you want to take note. Countering would probably also break him out of guard. So if you want to fully maximize guard, then probably you wouldn't want to put in counter. But if you want to increase your DPS, counter might be a good skill because it is elementalist, so it's neutral basically. Okay, so tanky DPS is a way of playing him, and whatever extra SCs you have, you can try to mash him some damage skills. I wouldn't say that being a tanky DPS you'll be able to put in too crazy skills. So basic ones will be good enough, like attack ups. Crit is subjective. If you want him to be healing, having some self-sustain, uh, crit can also be pretty decent. All right, and after that, okay, I'll be talking about two different uh extremes. The first extreme is being a full tank, right? But of course, he already has some damage capabilities. And the other extreme would be to be all out DPS. Okay, here's when it gets a little bit more interesting because playing him as an all out DPS, there's a lot of skills out there right now that DPS can equip on themselves, but there's a lot of choices basically. That's what I'm saying. So it depends on what sort of DPS you want him to be. Do you want him to be a hard hitter, like smash with his skills? Or do you want him to be more balanced, being a auto attacker, and then at the same time uh, dealing damage with skills? So it's a balance, more of a balance. So what is it that you want to build him on would greatly affect what sort of skills you want on him. So for example, if you want him to be a hard hitter with skills, right? You will not focus on skills like impacts. Okay, so impacts itself does not boost his skill sort of damage because his damage is pure dark. You want skills that boost his pure damage in that sense. So if you are playing him as a physical auto attacker in a sense, and then wait for the SCT to recharge, then probably you want to put on impacts because it's also neutral. Okay, so if you can wear a neutral sword and then his auto attacks will do neutral damage with impact skills also doing neutral. So this will balance, sort of counterbalance in terms of him being 2-1 elemental. Okay, but not by much, but yeah, it does help in a sense. Okay, so next I'll be moving on to the individual skills. So here I have like Pose of Glory. I think it'll be pretty good on him. When he kills, he gets SCT. Power counter. Okay, this is also an interesting skill. I believe that if you were to play him as a hard hitter, right, you can choose not to use your ultimate while using only skills with the plus 30% STR. So this skill gives you 30% STR if your ultimate is full. Okay, so technically speaking, you can don't use your ultimate and then just use your skills. But of course, you will need to find a way, which later on we will talk about, find a way to recharge recharge your SCT faster, or to get stocks from skills, right? That gives you free stocks. So these are ways that you can potentially play him. So power counter, which is at 5 SC. And next you have piercing. So piercing is also interesting. Uh, if he's able to do huge amount of damage, right? The piercing itself might just bring it over the top in terms of the reduction of opponent's defense. So I think it's also a decent skill. Next we have all the crits. I think we already talked about that. Brave, yeah, brave, auto brave or fast brave, depends on your SC. Auto haste. Okay, this is also an interesting thing. Auto haste, having a plus 25% increase to your SCT regeneration. I think it costs a little bit high, but it really depends on what is the synergy that you have for your Zouglas. But I do think that 14 SC for auto haste is a bit high. Uh, yeah, but you can play around that. Having higher SCT regen would also mean that he can spam his skills more, which definitely increases that damage output of his. Okay, next we have the quick trigger. Okay, quick trigger is +1 stock at random, which is I think is pretty worthwhile because all his skills cost so much SCT. So having one, if you're lucky and you get the third one, is 50 SCT. So I feel that it's definitely worth it. He's not like some characters with very low SCT as a first skill and then very high SCT as a third skill, and then you have to be praying to get the higher tiered one. For him, all his skills are I feel that they are worth it. Okay, so that's a quick trigger. You have skill charge. So skill charge 2. Right now we only have skill charge 2 in global, so it's 3 SC for 20 SCT for the second skill. It will not make him able to cast his second skill off the bat, but you'll probably recharge earlier than his first skill. So I think that is also a possible skill to put on him. Next time we will be getting skill charge 1 and skill charge 3. So all these are 3 SCs, so total will be 9 SC. So it depends on whether you feel that your build itself, this would be able to help it. And next we have Pirate's Feast, since we are talking about skill recharge. I think that Pirate's Feast is by far the best um, SCT sort of regeneration for him. That's of course provided that you have multiple waves for him to even get his Pirate Feast up. But most stages would be useful, and if you were to play him as a burst character, right, having a full stock, basically you will just smash your way through to the higher levels, higher floors, whereby probably you get a little bit stuck um in that sense. But definitely for speed clearing, I think he's one of the best skills for him. And not to forget, right, if you have Pirate's Feast, and there's also a skill called Stock Skill 1, right, and Stock Skill 2. So Stock Skill 1 will +1 your max stock of the skill 1. So you have this, you have 4 stocks of skill 1, and also stock 2, which is 4 SC, so +1 max of stock 2. So with Pirate Feast, if you have both of them, you're gonna have 4 stocks of skill 1 and 3 stocks of skill 2, which is pretty insane given that his skills are all um, the damage is pretty high. I think it's one of the highest, I would say. So definitely is something that you can look into. And next we have Sharp Eyes. Okay, Sharp Eyes is gonna be really interesting on him. I don't have the arc, so I can't really test it out. But in terms of Sharp Eyes, it can further increase his DPS. So you can imagine if Sharp Eyes with Pirate's Feast, and you go in with 4 stocks of skill 1, 3 stocks of skill 2, and 1 stock of skill 3, and then with Sharp Eyes 50% more skill damage, plus whatever bonuses that you previously have, it's gonna rack damage, man. But of course, the weakness here, or I wouldn't say weakness, I would say that you would have to find a way to regen the MP that he's gonna cast, that he's gonna use. So if it's 3 stocks of first skill, 2 of second skill, and 1 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 skills. So 6 skills will use 18% of his MP, which you need to find a way to regen those 18%. All right. And the last skill that I'm going to talk about is dual wield. Okay, dual wield. Most, or I would say all physical DPS and even mages, they use dual wield. What about dual wield for Zouglas? One might ask. And here's the thing. The only reason that I would use dual wield is with the pairing of wearing this Arc Eater weapon called Trushula. So it's from Caldina's arc. So it is the only reason why I will use dual wield, because 14 SC, I feel, for the additional damage that whatever items is gonna add, even if it adds 200 STR, I don't think that it will be as um uh game breaking as wearing this Trushula weapon, because it will negate elemental resistances of opponents. So that can potentially make him good even when he's fighting against enemies that are resistant to dark. So that is the only weapon that I feel that I would put on him, if because I wouldn't want to lose on the armor high boost, right? The armor high boost making him able to survive better. So basically, if I want to put on dual wield, I would definitely want Trushula as the second weapon. Alright people, this basically concludes my video for the Zouglas review. Really appreciate you guys for staying all the way. And if you have any suggestions on how I can do my videos better in the future, do leave comments in the comment section down below. And if you like my videos, wait, is that guy still here? Hey, hey, what do you think you're doing? Alright guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. No, don't.